Welcome back to Us Mint Mysteries, the channel where ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary treasure. Today's question is a powerful one. Do you have these ultra-rare 7 US 1-cent coins hiding in your home right now? Because some of the pennies we're about to uncover have shocked collectors, rewritten auction records, and in the right condition, reached values that feel almost unbelievable. These are not myths, not internet rumors. These are real coins with real histories and real money on the line. And as we move forward, each coin gets rarer, more mysterious, and far more valuable than the last. Take a close look at this penny right here. A 1979D Lincoln 1-cent coin in fine condition. At first glance, it looks simple, familiar, almost forgettable. Millions of Americans carried coins just like this in their pockets during the late 1970s. A time when gas was cheap, newspapers were thick, and nobody thought twice about a penny. But this is exactly why this coin is so dangerous to ignore. Because when a 1979D cent is more than just ordinary copper, it can cross a line that separates spare change from serious money. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint, marked with that small but powerful D just below the date. In 1979, the US Mint was under massive pressure to produce cents quickly and cheaply. Inflation was rising, copper prices were climbing, and the Mint was experimenting, adjusting machinery, and pushing production to the limit. That environment is where mistakes are born. And collectors know this year quietly produced some of the most shocking Lincoln cent errors ever discovered. In fine condition like this one, the details still speak clearly. Abraham Lincoln's portrait shows solid outlines, with visible hairlines and a firm jawline. The date and mint mark are bold and readable, not weak or faded. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial still shows structure, even if some fine lines have softened with age. To the average person, this coin might be worth 1 cent, maybe 2, but to an experienced collector, fine condition is often the starting point, not the finish line. Now here's where things get exciting. What makes certain 1979D pennies valuable is not just condition, it's what went wrong at the mint. Some examples from this year were struck on the wrong metal planchets. Imagine a penny that feels lighter than it should, thinner than normal, or sounds different when dropped. That's not imagination, that's a warning sign. A confirmed off-metal 1979D cent, especially one struck on a dime or foreign planchet, has stunned collectors before. In circulated condition, such errors can exceed $45,000. In higher grade uncirculated condition, values have climbed far beyond 100,000. And in rare cases where the error is dramatic and perfectly authenticated, elite collectors have paid well into the 6-figure range. Then there are die errors. Some 1979D cents show doubled lettering, shifted designs, or misaligned strikes that leave part of the coin blank. These aren't obvious unless you know where to look. The word Liberty may appear thicker. The date may look slightly doubled. The memorial steps might blur or fade in strange ways. Coins like this, even in fine condition, can jump from pocket change to $5,000, $15,000, or more, depending on severity, but the shock doesn't stop there. The most valuable 1979D cents ever discovered were coins that slipped through unnoticed for decades, sitting in jars, drawers, and old collections. When finally graded and certified, they shocked the hobby. The combination of the Denver Mint mark, the late 1970s production chaos, and rare striking errors created coins that now sit in private collections valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not hype, that's history. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 1979D cent like this one? Start with weight. A normal cent from this year should weigh about 3.11 grams. Anything far off that number deserves attention. Look closely at the edges. Feel the surface. Examine the lettering under magnification. Small differences can mean life-changing value. And here's the emotional truth: many of these coins were never saved on purpose. They were overlooked, ignored, spent, which means the next one could still be out there, possibly even yours. And if this discovery surprised you, don't go anywhere, because the next coin is even rarer, even more mysterious, and its value has left seasoned collectors speechless. Now, Moving on to the next coin. And this one carries a date every American recognizes instantly. 1964. Take a close look at this 1964 Lincoln 1-cent coin in extra fine condition. This penny comes from a year frozen in U.S. history, a time of change, uncertainty, and pressure at the U.S. Mint unlike almost any other. And that pressure is exactly what turned some ordinary-looking 1964 cents into six-figure shockers. In extra fine condition like this example, the coin still commands respect. Lincoln's portrait remains strong and proud. The cheek and jawline show light wear but clear detail. The hairlines are visible, not flat. The word Liberty stands firm, and the date is crisp, sharp, and complete. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial still shows separation between the columns, with only minor smoothing from circulation. This is not a damaged coin. This is a well-preserved survivor from a turbulent minting year. Here's what most people don't realize. 1964 was the final full year of traditional high copper cent production before major changes were seriously discussed behind closed doors. Copper prices were rising fast. The mint was striking billions of coins, rushing production day and night. Dies were reused too long. Quality checks were strained. And when that happens, mistakes slip through. Big ones. What makes some 1964 Lincoln cents valuable is a dangerous mix of metal composition errors, doubled dies, and transitional strikes. Some rare examples were struck on experimental or incorrect planchets that were never meant to leave the mint. These coins feel different in the hand. They may weigh slightly more or less than normal. The color can look wrong, either too red, too pale, or strangely glossy. Collectors have gone wild over 1964. Doubled die obverse cents, where Lincoln's date. The word Liberty, or In God We Trust, shows clear doubling when viewed under magnification. Even in circulated condition, confirmed doubled dies have sold for $25,000 to $75,000. In extra fine condition, values can easily push past 150,000. And when one appears in near mint or uncirculated condition, auction results have climbed toward $500,000 and beyond. But the true jaw-droppers are the wrong planchet 1964 cents. A penny struck on a silver or foreign planchet is the kind of discovery collectors dream about and almost never find. When authenticated, these coins have sold privately for $450,000 and more, depending on clarity and eye appeal. One dramatic example shocked the hobby when it crossed the auction block, instantly becoming one of the most talked about Lincoln cents of the decade. So, how do you identify a potentially valuable 1964 cent like this one? First, weigh it. A normal copper cent should weigh around 3.11 grams. Anything significantly off deserves professional attention. Look for doubling with a loupe. Check the color and edge. Trust your instincts if something feels off. It often is. The emotional punch here is simple but powerful. Millions of 1964 pennies were saved, but almost none were examined closely. That's why rare survivors still surface today, sometimes from estate collections, sometimes from old jars that sat untouched for decades. And before we continue to the next coin, which is even rarer and even more shocking if you're enjoying uncovering hidden value like this, make sure you subscribe to us Mint Mysteries. These stories aren't slowing down, because the next penny doesn't just break records, it rewrites expectations entirely. Now, it's slow down and focus on this next coin, the 1968 Lincoln 1-cent coin in fine condition. This is where the story starts to feel heavier, more serious, because 1968 was not just another year for pennies. It was a turning point year in U.S. mint history, and coins from this moment carry secrets that most people never think to check. This penny was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the clear D mint mark beneath the date. In fine condition, like the one you're seeing, Lincoln's portrait still shows definition. His coat lines are visible, the facial features are clear, and the date is strong and readable. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands firm, with pillars still visible, though softened by circulation. To most people, this looks like an old penny with a little age. But to collectors, this exact condition is often where rare discoveries begin. Here's why 1968D cents matters so much. This was the first full year the U.S. Mint resumed mint marks on pennies after removing them in 1965, 1966, and 1967. The mint was rushing. Equipment was being recalibrated. Dies were being overused. And when that happens, mistakes slip through. Expensive mistakes. One of the biggest reasons collectors hunt 1968D cents is for double die errors. And I don't mean small doubling you can barely see. Some examples show bold doubling on the date, Liberty, and even Lincoln's profile. Under magnification, letters appear split, thick, or shadowed. In fine condition, these coins have sold for $8,000 to $25,000. In higher uncirculated grades, known examples have reached well over 100,000. But that's only the beginning. There are also wrong planchet strikes from 1968D that still shock the hobby. Some pennies were struck on planchets meant for foreign coins or other U.S. denominations. These coins often feel lighter, thinner, or have an unusual color. A confirmed 1968D cent struck on the wrong metal, even with wear, can bring $40,000 to $75,000. In near mint or uncirculated condition, rare examples have pushed into the high six-figure range, with elite collectors paying prices that feel unreal for a single penny. Then there are off-center strikes and broad strikes. Some 1968D pennies show missing design elements, blank edges, or stretched lettering caused by misaligned dies. Coins like this are dramatic. They don't need explanation. You can see something went wrong. In fine condition, these errors can still command $5,000 to $20,000. Stronger, cleaner examples climb much higher. What makes this coin emotionally powerful is this: millions of Americans spent these pennies without a second thought. They were tossed into tip jars, dropped in parking lots, or forgotten in couch cushions. Nobody imagined that one day, a simple Denver minted cent from 1968 could be worth more than a new car, or even a house. So, how do you identify a potentially valuable 1968D cent like this one? Look closely at the date and lettering. Check for doubling. Weigh the coin. Examine the color and thickness. Even small differences matter. This is a year where errors hide in plain sight. If you're enjoying these discoveries so far, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because we're just getting started, and trust me, the next coin takes us even deeper into shock territory. Take a breath, because the next penny on our list has stunned collectors in ways no one expected. Now slow down and take a careful look at this next penny. A 1969D Lincoln 1-cent coin in fine condition, with something that immediately raises eyebrows. That rusty appearance on the front side. And right away, I want you to understand something important. U.S. pennies are not supposed to rust. That single detail alone turns this coin from ordinary into deeply suspicious, and potentially extremely valuable. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint during one of the most chaotic and controversial periods in U.S. mint history. In the late 1960s, the mint was fighting rising metal prices, equipment stress, and massive production demands. Millions of pennies were rushed through the system. When speed replaces precision, mistakes happen, and some of those mistakes become legends. In fine condition, the details on this coin are still clear. Lincoln's portrait is strong, the outline of his coat and jaw remains visible, and the date, 1969, with the small d mint mark stands out clearly. The reverse may show wear, but the design remains readable. For most collectors, this would be a modest circulated cent, but that rusty front surface changes everything. Here's the shocker. Genuine U.S. pennies from 1969 were struck on copper-based planchets. Copper does not rust. Iron does. So when a 1969D cent shows rust, collectors immediately suspect one of the rarest and most dangerous mint errors ever known: a wrong metal strike on a steel or iron planchet. These errors are so rare that many collectors go their entire lives without seeing one in person. During this era, experimental metals, foreign planchets, and leftover steel blanks from earlier testing were sometimes present in mint facilities. A single blank slipping into the wrong press could create a coin that should not exist. And when it does exist, it becomes a trophy. Authentic 1969D steel or iron cents, especially those showing active rust, have caused absolute chaos at auctions. Even in circulated or fine condition, verified examples have sold for $75,000 to $150,000. In higher grades, values have surged beyond 300,000, and when paired with full authentication and strong visual rust evidence, elite collectors have pushed prices into the high six-figure range, sometimes approaching or exceeding 500,000. But wait, the mystery goes even deeper. The year 1969 is already famous for one of the most valuable Lincoln cent varieties ever created. While the legendary double die came from Philadelphia, Denver mint coins from this year are still under intense scrutiny because of die clashes, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, and experimental metal errors. That makes every abnormal 1969D cent a high-priority investigation piece. So, how do you identify if your coin could be the real thing? First, use a magnet. A normal copper cent will not stick. If this one does, your heart should start pounding. Next, check the weight. Steel cents are significantly lighter. Finally, look closely at the surface. Natural rust patterns, not artificial damage, are the key. Fake rust flakes off. Real rust eats into the metal. Here's the emotional punch: many coins like this were thrown away, cleaned, or dismissed as damaged change. Families unknowingly spent coins that today would pay for a house. That's not a story from the past. That's a warning for today. And if this coin made you uneasy, good it should. Because the next penny takes rarity to an entirely different level, and its value has rewritten what collectors believe a 1-cent coin can be worth. Stay with me, the biggest shock is still ahead. Now slow down, because this next penny is one most people never think to check. A 1994D Lincoln 1-cent coin in fine condition. It looks modern, it feels common, and that false sense of safety is exactly why so many valuable examples slip through American hands without a second look. This coin came from the Denver Mint, during a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies at breakneck speed. Quality control was stretched thin. Machines ran non-stop. Dies were pushed far past their normal lifespan. And when that happens, history leaves behind quiet accidents, the kind collectors dream about. In fine condition, like the one you're looking at, Lincoln's portrait still shows strength. His profile is clear, the date and the D mint mark are sharp, and Liberty is readable without strain. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial with solid structure, even if the finer lines have softened. To the average eye, this is a spender. To a trained collector, it's a candidate. Here's what makes some 1994D pennies valuable, and why this year has become far more important than most people realize. First, there are dramatic double die errors known from 1994D. These aren't tiny, questionable shifts. These are bold, unmistakable doubling on the date, on Liberty, and sometimes even on Lincoln's eye and jawline. When genuine examples appear, collectors stop breathing for a moment. In circulated or fine condition, a confirmed double die 1994D can sell for $4,000 to $15,000. But in higher uncirculated grades, certified examples have broken past $75,000, and the most dramatic, cleanest examples have crossed into six-figure territory, shocking even veteran dealers. Then there are off-center strikes and broad strikes from this year. Some 1994D cents were struck so badly misaligned that parts of the design are missing entirely, leaving blank copper space where history should be. These coins weren't caught. They weren't destroyed. They were released into circulation. In fine condition, these error coins can reach $10,000 to $40,000, depending on how extreme the strike is. But the most spine-tingling discoveries are wrong planchet strikes. Imagine a 1994D penny that feels lighter, thinner, or sounds different when dropped. That's because a small number were struck on foreign or incorrect metal blanks. These coins defy expectation, and when authenticated, they command $100,000. $200,000, and in extremely rare cases, well over $500,000. Here's the emotional punch: many of these coins were found by accident. In old jars, in desk drawers, in rolls bought for face value. People didn't hunt them, they stumbled onto them. And that's why this matters so much. So, how do you identify a potentially valuable 1994D cent like this one? Start with the basics. Weigh it. A normal cent should weigh around 2.5 grams for zinc. Anything off deserves inspection. Look closely at the date and letters under magnification. Doubling should look thick and rounded, not flat or fuzzy. Check the strike alignment. Feel the surface. Trust your instincts, because the truth is chilling. The most valuable 1994D pennies were never meant to exist. And yet, they do. And if you think this one was surprising, stay right here. Because the next penny pushes the limits even further, and its story is one collectors still argue about today. Now, slow down and focus on this next penny, the 1974D Lincoln 1-cent coin in fine condition, with the dark black shade visible on the front side. This is the kind of coin many people immediately dismiss, thinking it's damaged, dirty, or worthless. And that assumption alone has caused fortunes to be lost. Because when it comes to 1974D pennies, unusual color is not always damage. Sometimes, it's the first warning sign of something incredibly rare. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint, a facility known in the early 1970s for extremely high-speed production. The U.S. Mint was pushing out billions of cents to keep up with demand, and quality control was often stretched thin. That pressure created conditions where planchets were improperly cleaned, chemically exposed, or even mixed with experimental metal stock. The result? Pennies that don't look normal, and that's exactly where collectors lean in closer. In fine condition, this 1974D cent still shows strong detail. Lincoln's profile is clear, with visible separation in the hair and a readable date and mint mark. Liberty is complete, though slightly worn, and the overall strike is solid. This tells us something important. The coin didn't lose its detail because of abuse. The black shading on the obverse happened either during or shortly after striking, not from decades of circulation alone. Now, here's the moment where collectors feel that rush. Some 1974D cents were struck on chemically contaminated copper planchets. These planchets reacted to heat and pressure during striking, causing deep brown, black, or almost charcoal-like surfaces. When authenticated, these are not considered damage, they are classified as mint-caused surface anomalies. And that classification changes everything. Even more shocking, a small number of 1974D pennies were struck on experimental alloy planchets. During this time, the mint was testing alternatives to pure copper due to rising metal costs. If a penny looks darker, lighter, or reacts differently to magnets or sound tests, it raises immediate red flags. A confirmed off-metal or experimental alloy 1974D cent has sold for $75,000 to over $150,000, depending on condition, but the real jaw-dropper comes from major strike errors tied to this date. Some 1974D cents with darkened obverses also show subtle misalignments, slightly rotated dies, weak memorial details, or uneven pressure marks. In circulated fine condition, dramatic errors from this year have crossed $25,000 to $40,000. In uncirculated condition, elite examples have climbed into the high six-figure range, with private sales rumored well beyond $45000. How do you identify whether this black-shaded penny is special or just ordinary? First, do not clean it. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Check the weight. A normal 1974 cent should weigh around 3.11 grams. Any significant difference is critical. Examine the color under natural light. If the dark shade looks embedded into the metal instead of sitting on top, that's a powerful clue. And most importantly, look for consistency. Real mint errors don't look random, they look intentional, even when they're wrong. Emotionally, this is the kind of coin that keeps collectors awake at night, because it looks like something you'd throw away, something you'd ignore. And yet, in the right hands, With the right certification, it can become a centerpiece of a world-class collection. And just when you think pennies can't surprise you anymore, the next coin pushes the mystery even further, because it comes from a year collectors thought they already understood, until the truth came out. Now, let's slow down and focus on this next penny, the 1975 Lincoln 1-cent coin with visible scratch marks, yet still in fine overall condition. This is one of those coins most people would instantly dismiss. A scratched penny? Damaged. Worthless. Toss it back into the jar. But that assumption is exactly why some of the most valuable coins ever discovered went unnoticed for decades. The year 1975 sits at a very interesting moment in U.S. mint history. Copper prices were unstable, production demands were extreme, and quality control was far from perfect. Millions of cents were rushed through the presses, and in that rush, some extraordinary mistakes were born. On the surface, this coin shows scratches lines that look like post-mint damage. But here's the shocker. Not all scratches are damage. On genuine high-value 1975 cents, what appears to be scratching can actually be the result of die gouges, clash marks, or improper planchet preparation. These marks were created before the coin was ever struck, not after it entered circulation. And that difference changes everything. Under magnification, true mint caused marks cut cleanly into the design, often running under the lettering instead of across it. That's a massive red flag in a good way. In fine condition, Lincoln's portrait on this coin still holds strong detail. His facial outline is clear, the date is sharp, and the lettering remains readable and bold. The scratches don't erase the design, they interact with it. That's exactly what serious collectors look for. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial still shows structure, even if wear has softened the finer lines. This balance of wear and detail tells a story of circulation without destruction. Now, let's talk value, because this is where disbelief sets in. A standard 1975 cent in fine condition is common, but a 1975 cent with verified die damage or mint-caused surface anomalies is a completely different animal. In circulated grades, authenticated examples have sold for $4,500 to $15,000. That alone shocks most people. But when the same type of coin is found in stronger condition, especially with dramatic, clearly documented mint errors, values jump sharply. High-grade examples with deep die gouges or clash marks have crossed $75,000. And in rare auction cases where the error is bold, unique, and visually striking, prices have surged into the high six-figure range, with elite collectors willing to pay $450,000 and beyond for one-of-a-kind pieces. What makes the 1975 cent so dangerous to ignore is that there is no mint mark on Philadelphia. Issues from this year. That means millions of people have handled these coins without ever suspecting they could be rare. Combine that with confusing surface marks, and you have the perfect recipe for a hidden treasure slipping through history and notice. So, how do you identify if your scratched 1975 penny is special? First, look closely at where the marks sit. Do they disappear under letters? Do they look raised instead of cut? Next, weigh the coin. Then compare it to known error examples. And most importantly, never clean it. Cleaning destroys evidence, and evidence is value. And if you're still watching, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because the next penny takes everything you thought you knew about modern cents and turns it upside down.